for all the latest community news and events.
103.2 Preston FM.
Your community, your radio.
2:31 on Chat City on the 15th of August. I'm Gary Cunliffe, sitting in, not standing, because I'd fall over if I stood for 2 hours, wouldn't I? I'm sitting in for Hughie Parr, and I'm joined in the studio now by David Bingham, who's come down from the local Jehovah's Witness churches. Now, I think you were expecting Hughie when you came in, weren't you, David?
I was indeed, yes.
You've been before. I may be less better looking than Hughie, but I'm doing my best. So welcome to Chat City.
Well, thank you.
You've come along to promote an event that's taking place next weekend, haven't you? Just give us some brief details, and then we'll chat in detail.
Yeah. It's the regional convention of Jehovah's Witnesses in the Lancashire and Cheshire, North Wales area, even including the Isle of Man, and we're having the 3-day convention as from next Friday, August the 22nd, rolling through till Sunday, starting about 9:20 each morning, finishing between 4 and 5 in the afternoon.
Now, that's taking place in Liverpool. It's only a 50-minute drive, isn't it?
Yes, indeed.
So there'll be people there, not just from the Northwest, but nationally, perhaps?
Not so many. We have the convention rolls out across the country.
Right.
There are 28 conventions in Britain as a whole.
Yep.
Representing as many languages that we now have in this country. And so on the same weekend in various cities, I mean, there's one over at the Convention Centre in Leeds, one up at Newcastle. The Twickenham rugby ground will be filled with probably about 30,000 people. So we're talking about a national event happening at the same weekend in all these various venues.
I understand now. I was a bit slow there, wasn't I? So locally, you are part of the Jehovah's Witness community. Is that a big community in Preston?
In Preston, we're talking about 500 to 600 people, representing 6 congregations who meet in various places. We have what are known as Kingdom Halls. That would be our church, if you like.
Yeah.
And we have one in Preston that's a Chinese congregation, where the program is in Chinese language, of course, and the other 5 are, of course, English. Lancashire English, I might say. So
we were chatting whilst Hot Chocolate was singing there, and Hughie was going to have a look at your website and do a little bit of research, but I haven't had the pleasure and the time to do that today. So you have a website dedicated to the local groups, is that right, or is it the national website?
It's international.
Yeah.
It is jw.org. It is translated into 500 languages. Wow. When you bear in mind that Google is only about 150 languages, maybe 200. You can get downloads of material on all kinds of subjects in up to 700 languages. It is a massive 220,000 page website.
Wow.
We've been publicising it these recent weeks with a leaflet campaign indicating what it's about. Where can we find answers to life's big questions? Well, it's all there on the website for people just to peruse and make their own minds up at the end of the day, of course.
Are you supported by young people, or are young people too busy sort of not thinking about the meaning of life? Because we were chatting off air that it was when I turned 40 I started to think about the big questions, having been a Sunday school attender, and then I rebelled. Then as a teenager I went back and joined again the church community and the youth club, and then I rebelled again because I was too busy having fun. At what age do people sort of ask these big questions? Do you have an idea?
Well, I can only speak for myself. I guess I took a little bit of out of your road in life, but not for too long. I did ask them fairly early on, and was fortunate enough to come in contact with someone who could help me, really, which was essentially directing me to the Bible and looking at the Bible's answers to things. A lot of people have a Christian foundation, but how many have actually checked out the basis of it in their own copy of the Bible? Having done that, I found that it said surprising things that, although I was brought up in a church family, I just had never come across.
But there is a morality that exists that you could label a Christian morality, and that exists independent of a belief in the Bible, doesn't it? I mean, the 10 Commandments are fairly universal for most people who are decent human beings, aren't they?
Yes. Well, that is true, and to the extent that any individual is prepared to apply Bible principle, then they will receive the benefits of that. They'll receive a blessing, if we want to use those words. It will work out well for them to the extent that they apply those things. So if you love your neighbour, you're more likely to get loved back. Not always, but more likely.
Now, just tell me a little bit about the history of the Jehovah's Witness movement. When did it start?
Well, I suppose I would have to say that we try and follow the first century pattern or modus operandi of the early Christian congregation set up by Jesus Christ. Now, that's in the book of Acts in the Bible, and we try to follow the function, how they went about things, what they did, and what their objectives were. So that's way back, of course. In more modern times, a group of individuals around about the 1800s, mid-1800s, Christians from various denominations got together and they decided to check what the Bible actually said compared with what they had been taught in their various religions. So on the one hand, they had a list of church doctrine. On the other hand, they researched all the Bible verses that related to those doctrines. And they found huge discrepancies and found that much of a church doctrine had developed in a traditional way, not necessarily on the basis of the purity of the scriptures themselves. So then they had a choice. Well, do we forget all this or do we do something about it? Do we tell other people to do the same thing and come to their own personal conclusions on the basis of that kind of research? And that, to this very day, is what we invite people to do. Their choice, after they've gone through that Bible study period, it's entirely up to them what they do about it.
Something that fascinates me is biblical history and archaeology, because the actual archaeology in the ground corresponds with very much of the stories which come from the Old and the New Testament, don't they?
Well, absolutely, and that's one of the things that certainly confirms, it's not the basis of my faith, but it certainly confirms it, and it's a very exciting and intriguing study.
So as a Jehovah's Witness, your principles for living, could you sort of sum them up in a nutshell, to use the old phrase?
Yeah, very difficult. I already mentioned love your neighbour, do what's good for others, and that's automatically good for you. We're concerned about the community. We have quite a worldwide reach. We're in every country. We are very often among the earliest involved in disaster areas, the like of that. The Philippines, not too long ago, I think we were one of the very first, because we're set up on the ground worldwide. There are upwards almost 8 million Jehovah's Witnesses established in virtually every community, and we have an organisation already in place, the disaster relief committees everywhere. So they're ready to spring into action, quietly, unsung, just get on with it. And so we're able to respond in those ways. We're by no means the biggest, but very often the first in, because of being on the ground.
So you talked about being accepted into the Jehovah's Witness church and learning the scriptures. Is there sort of a rite of passage that you have to do to take everything on board? And does part of that involve the outreach on the street? Because you go and knock on people's doors, don't you?
Yes.
Is that something that you have to do as a Jehovah's Witness?
Well, first of all, each one of Jehovah's Witnesses makes a personal decision as to whether they want to become one or not.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean to say that they can't come to our meetings. Many do. That doesn't mean to say they can't study the Bible and then decide at the end of the day, well, I won't become a Jehovah's Witness, but thanks very much for the information.
You're open to people to come and explore.
Absolutely, anyone at all.
Yeah.
And that is true this weekend at Liverpool. People can meander in and meander out. There are no collections. Nobody will dive on you and pin you to a chair or any of that.
That would be unnecessary.
So the public perception sometimes is a little other than that which actually happens.
I would imagine the public perception isn't exactly what you would want it to be, with people who are ill-informed.
Well, that's right. Huey, when we've discussed this before, he said you have a bad press. My response to that is...
He's out-faced, isn't he?
Yeah. He was very kind about it. But my response to that is really, as we all know, that sometimes the press can be bad.
Of course it can. Yeah.
Very intrusive and unkind in people's lives, and sensationalist. And sometimes things are reported as simply not true or totally sensationalised, taken right out of context.
So in Preston, where do we find your churches? Where physically are they located?
Well, we have one just off Eastway. If you drive along Eastway, you'll find one. If you're coming to the sort of Ribbleton end, you'll find one on the left-hand side at one of the roundabouts there. And there's one in St Paul's Road, just in the town centre here. And Bamber Bridge, we have one off the main street in Bamber Bridge. Those are the main ones here, but of course there are two congregations covering different parts of Preston that meet in each of the venues. You see.
And people are welcome to come and see what you do, but you also produce the newspaper, don't you? Is it the Watchtower?
Watchtower.
Is that produced internationally?
Yes, that's right. 40-odd million copies, very similar for the Awake magazine.
Yeah.
And again, published in hundreds of languages worldwide. So we're very much just a little pinprick here compared to the broad organisation worldwide. We're very much a brotherhood. We take a deep interest in each other and what's going on, and the website demonstrates that too. There are items from all over the world on that, how things are going.
Well, we need to talk in detail about the convention next weekend, and you need to tell us some of the things that will be happening. But it will be a good time to take a little tune, and I can't believe what the CD player has landed on.
On 103.2 FM.
From Leyland to Longridge.
And Wood Plumpton to Waltonley Dale.
It's your community.
Your radio.
Your Preston FM.
We're in the last 15 minutes of Chat City on the 15th of August here at 103.2 Preston FM, up on the third floor of our penthouse studio in Cannon Street. It's a lovely day, and I'm joined this afternoon by David Bingham here in the last hour, who's come to talk to us about Jehovah's Witness Church in general, but about a convention next weekend in particular. But David and I were just embarrassing ourselves saying that we're old enough to remember that song first time round. Is that right, David?
Absolutely.
And we were talking music. You went to see Eric Clapton recently.
I did, yes. Thanks for reminding everybody about that.
But is that not a popular thing amongst your friends to be a Clapton fan?
It's not a problem.
He's a great musician, isn't he? Now, your conventions, the convention which is coming up next weekend, will it include music?
Well, we do have songs, if you like, or in church terminology, it would be like hymns, but it's not a major. We start and finish each session with a song, really, Bible-based song.
Now, I've been looking at the flyer that's came here. There is, it's the annual conventions of Jehovah's Witnesses. As you explained, they're happening across the country at the same weekend.
Yes.
The Northwest one is at the Echo Arena down on the waterfront in Liverpool.
Yes,
what a great venue that is.
It is indeed.
And it's a 3-day thing.
3-day event, yes.
With a theme?
With a theme. The theme is Keep Seeking First God's Kingdom, based on a Bible verse, which in Matthew 6 and verse 33. The kingdom. Most Christians, in fact all Christians through the last 2,000 years have prayed, Thy kingdom come.
Yes.
So it's a central theme to Christianity as a whole. So what is this kingdom? What does it mean? Where is it established? What will it accomplish? Why is it so central to the Christian message?
Will this kingdom come to earth one day? Is that what we're expecting?
What we're expecting, according to the Bible's direction, is the effects of the kingdom. The Bible tells us that it's a heavenly kingdom. So we're not looking for anyone coming down on a cloud or heavenly armies in some way like that. What we're looking for is the effects of the truth of God's kingdom affecting people down here on the earth in a massive way, and affecting the conditions that there are here on the earth. So a heavenly government affecting the earth, changing the structure of human society. By the structure, I mean the political, commercial, religious structure of the world, which is really I guess in many ways, the cause of problems that we see worldwide.
We were talking off air before, weren't we, about the fact that war and disharmony often is paraded in the name of religion, and it's not right, is it, that it leads to such animosity?
Well, not at all. As Jehovah's Witnesses, we're totally non-political. We do not get involved in the political debates and the divisions between nations. We're an international community, a brotherhood. Simply will not take up arms against anyone. Certainly not our brothers or anyone else in the human family.
It's a lesson that we all could learn.
Well, that's it. But again, it's because the Bible indicates that that's the way we should be.
Now, you mentioned international community there. Will you be welcoming speakers and guests from across the world to speak at the convention?
Well, because this is a regional convention, there will be some, but not many. The conventions in this country are all linked together by video link, and there will be some international speakers at the central location.
Good.
I mentioned Twickenham Rugby Union Ground, and it will be broadcast from there from time to time during the programme.
So a 3-day event. We're close enough to travel every day, aren't we, from Preston?
Yes.
But there will be hotels down on the waterfront. But is there a cost for the convention?
Not at all. There's no charge for anything that we do, ever. Our literature is available for people to take when we call round. If they come to our meetings, they can take literature. There are no collections ever in any of our venues. We feel that we make our own voluntary contributions quietly and discreetly without putting anyone in an embarrassing situation. We don't ask other people to fund our operation.
No, you mentioned the website jw.org, and I see on the bottom of the flyer here that there are sort of pages dedicated to convention.
Yes.
And you can log on and see past convention experiences and photographs, maybe?
Yes, that's right. Yes, videos of how they work, and you may notice some of them are quite vast, really, with tens of thousands of people in various parts of the world.
So if somebody is thinking, well, I really must get sorted with what I believe and where I'm going with my life, because the older you get, the more you do think about it, don't you? Because the clock is counting down, and you think, well, this can't be the only life that I've got. No. Is there anywhere they can find your literature? Do you leave literature in libraries or public places?
We're quite happy to do that, but whether the library will put them on show is entirely up to them.
The website is the best option, isn't it?
It is really. In various places, even in the main street here, we do sometimes have very portable literature stands manned at various times throughout the week.
Yeah.
So if you pass one of those, you can pick up literature and do that. But the website is a very, very good option.
And it's jw.org, and it's as simple as that.
Simple as that.
So that event takes place not this weekend, but next weekend.
Today.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Echo Arena on the waterfront at Liverpool. You will, of course, be there, won't you, David?
I will.
Is there a sort of a social media network of Jehovah's Witnesses? Is that something you avoid? Because it can become dangerous, can't it?
Exactly. We have published in our magazine some of the dangers and the pitfalls that come from that. And so generally speaking, we would perhaps not ask people to avoid it. Everything's personal. Everything's up to them.
Yeah.
We don't pontificate. We would just simply point out the Bible principle and the dangers, and then it's up to people to apply. So I know that some Jehovah's Witnesses are on Facebook and the like. I personally am not. I think that the dangers outweigh the benefits.
So, a very wise lesson there. The dangers often do outweigh the benefits, and people end up closing down accounts because of just random comments that they didn't really mean and which hurt. You can't take back things you say on social media, can you?
That's right. And it's so easy to say them when there's no one sitting in front of you.
Yes, it is. It's almost as if you're in your ivory tower. So, David, it's been a pleasure to talk to you. I apologise for not being Huey, but I've done my best.
You've done very well, thank you.
We hope to welcome you again in the future onto Chat City on Preston FM, and do enjoy the weekend next weekend. Is there a forecast? But you're undercover, aren't you, really? So
yes, undercover.
It doesn't really matter.
No.
So, David, thank you very much for joining us. Would you believe it? We're almost out of time on Chat City. It's nearly 2:55.
For all the latest community news and events.
103.2 Preston FM.
Your community, your radio.